Imagine being so confident in your philosophy that when the most powerful man in the world offers you anything you want, you tell him to get out of your sunlight. This is the story of Diogenes, the philosopher who lived in a barrel, embarrassed Alexander the Great, and turned his entire life into a weapon against society's illusions. Born around 412 BCE in Sinope, a Greek city on the Black Sea, Diogenes didn't start life as a philosopher. His father was a banker, accused of counterfeiting coins, and when the scandal erupted, Diogenes was exiled. Most men would have been ruined. Diogenes saw it as liberation. Arriving in Athens, he looked at the wealth, the status-seeking, the political games, and decided the whole system was garbage. He rejected it all. And from exile, he built a new philosophy, one that would make him both the most scandalous man in Greece and one of the most influential thinkers in history. Diogenes became the founder of Cynicism. The word comes from kynikos, meaning dog-like. Why dog-like? Because Diogenes believed humans should live simply and naturally, like animals. He owned almost nothing, just a cloak, a stick, and a pouch for food. He slept wherever he found shelter. Eventually, he settled in a giant clay storage jar in the middle of Athens. People called it a barrel, and it became his most famous symbol. While other philosophers argued in marble academies, Diogenes lived his ideas. He taught that happiness didn't come from wealth or status. It came from needing less. His barrel wasn't just a home. It was a declaration of war against society's false values. But Diogenes wasn't a quiet hermit. He was the greatest troll in history. He fought with ridicule, provocation, and shock. He wandered Athens with a lamp in broad daylight, claiming he was looking for an honest man. When Plato defined humans as featherless bipeds, Diogenes plucked a chicken, brought it into Plato's lecture, and shouted, "Behold, Plato's human." Plato was forced to add, "with flat nails" to his definition. He mocked people obsessed with possessions. When he saw a child drinking water with cupped hands, he smashed his own cup, saying, "A child has beaten me in simplicity." And yes, he went further. He openly pleasured himself in public. When people complained, he replied, "If only I could satisfy hunger by rubbing my stomach." He was forcing Athenians to confront their hypocrisy. Why is one natural urge acceptable, but another shameful? Who decides? Why obey? For Diogenes, every scandal was a philosophical experiment. He was attacking the fake currency of society, exposing how absurd its values really were. That exile from Sinope, the one that seemed like a disaster, it gave him his greatest idea. If money could be defaced, maybe all human values could be defaced too. Marriage, laws, religion, political power. These were just social currencies, arbitrary symbols. Diogenes decided to counterfeit them all, to ridicule, expose, and smash the illusions people lived by. His life became one long act of defacement. And then came the most famous meeting in ancient philosophy. Alexander the Great, conqueror of empires, student of Aristotle, ruler of the known world, had heard of this mad philosopher who lived like a dog. Intrigued, he went to find him. He found Diogenes sunbathing outside his barrel. Alexander, surrounded by generals and soldiers, announced himself, "I am Alexander the Great. Ask me for anything, and I shall grant it." Diogenes squinted at him and said, "Yes, step aside. You're blocking my sunlight." The conqueror of nations, humiliated by a homeless man. But that wasn't the end. Diogenes went further. He told Alexander that the only man he envied was Alexander's slave, because at least the slave knew he was a slave. Alexander, for all his glory, was enslaved by ambition, by conquest, by a hunger that could never be satisfied. Alexander's generals were ready to kill Diogenes, but Alexander was impressed. He turned to them and said, "If I were not Alexander, I would wish to be Diogenes." The man who conquered the world admitted he envied the man who needed nothing. Diogenes embraced the nickname Dog. He ate raw meat, slept outdoors in all weather, and scorned human pretensions. He wanted to live as freely as an animal. To him, Animals had it right. They didn't chase fame, or wealth, or politics. They lived according to nature, without shame. Humans, in contrast, enslaved themselves with artificial needs and endless anxieties. When mocked, Diogenes said, "Dogs and philosophers do the greatest good and get the fewest rewards." But here's the enduring mystery. Was Diogenes a brilliant philosopher, or just insane? His life was so extreme that some historians believe he suffered from mental illness. But maybe that's the wrong question. Maybe sanity and madness are just more social currencies, more illusions. Maybe Diogenes wasn't crazy. Maybe he was the only one willing to live by truths the rest of us are too afraid to face. When asked how he wanted to be buried, Diogenes replied, "Throw me to the dogs. I won't be needing my body." He lived like an animal. He died like a philosopher. And maybe he showed us they were the same thing all along. His life was proof that sometimes the deepest wisdom comes from the most outrageous places. True freedom isn't about having more, it's about needing less. So the next time you feel trapped by possessions, enslaved by ambition, or crushed by society's expectations, remember the man who laughed at Alexander the Great. Sometimes the only way to be free is to need nothing. What about you? What would you give up to be truly free?